Good morning, welcome back guys. It's Sunday morning, we're in the middle of August, which is one of the hottest months, so we're out here this morning at 6 a.m. trying to get some work done before the heat creeps up on us. I think today again is going to be over 100. That's pretty much the norm for these couple of months. Last week we went ahead and wrapped up the fuel system, so we've got all that installed. I still got this bracket that I got to swap out. This one is 3D printed, got that made in metal. I did need to move the regulator back a little bit, so I 3D printed that bracket just for test purposes. Wanted to move that back a little bit so that way when I've got the intake manifold on here and I make the swooping pipe, I get a little bit more clearance around this fuel pressure sensor. So I've got everything kind of plumbed up here, waiting on this to come in. That was it for the fuel system. This week we are going to be working on a catch can, and I did find my pressure my pressure blocks for the fuel lines, so hopefully we'll have enough time to get those pressure tested to make sure there's no leaks. But this is what we're looking at. We've got the IEG catch can. I've got the 8AN adapter fittings on that. I've got my bracket that I got made, bolt, spacer, and here are my pressure testers that I've got. We also have this bracket made up. This is actually for the coolant return and the back of the cylinder head. So I made an adapter here, only because I did convert the oil return also to 10AN. So we've got this going in there. I'll show you a little bit more about that later on. But for now, sit back. Let's take it from the top. Alright, so first things first, I do need to get the dog bone installed. So we'll get that thrown in there. We'll install the catch can mount, and we'll start plumbing that up. I do have the fittings on the sides, but we'll go over that as we get deeper on what I am using. For the dog bone mount, we are using the Perrin. Got that all lubed up. And it should just kind of slide in here. Go. Leave that loose for now. Alright, so this mount I did make from scratch, so if you guys want any of these, I do actually have one extra. I can get some more made up, but basically it sits right on the hitch stop mount. I've got it tied in two different sections, and it kind of pivots for all the weight, so there's no way that it's going to bend these. It actually works out really nice. Pretty happy with it. Again, leave that kind of loose till I get the top bolt in. Good. Good. All right, so I do need to reorient this one here. These two are for the coolant. This is for the oil drain back. I am using the adapter. I think it's 3MI. To double check on that, but that basically goes into the oil drain. So this will be draining into the cylinder head oil drain and the turbo. And then for the main port on the top of the engine, we're actually going to repurpose that. I actually have a 5-bar map sensor that I'll be putting on there just so I can log cylinder or block pressure. We are going to be running this a little bit different than traditional. We're going to be using one of the 8 AN ports on the cylinder head, the middle 8 AN port, and then another single 8 AN port on the driver head. I've got 2 caps on the others, and then with this larger one, we are using that for that pressure port. So we're going to try that out. We'll use that sensor to log what kind of block pressure we're seeing to make sure we don't have any issues. So if we do run into issues where our block pressure is too high, I will re-plumb in these extra 8 ANs, or I can either move from this 8 AN over to the 12 AN and get that either situated to the existing catch can or add a second one. But for now, that's why we're adding that pressure sensor, to see if we can get away with this and then make changes if we need to. So we'll get this loosened up. We're going to move it over to this side because we are using the coolant pipe over here and then the coolant return over there. And then obviously the drain will go over to the oil drain too. So let me get that fixed up. Alright, so we are actually swapping up the top for the vent to atmosphere adapter. So we've got a hold of one of those. Basically, you just got to take these 3 bolts off up top. Allen head. And then this should pop off. It's got an O-ring in here, so either replace it or use the one, or keep it in there, or use the one that comes in the back of this. Quite honestly, I'm just going to leave it in there since we've already got one. Take it off this side. And then this uses 2 of the ports. So you've got a bunch of different holes that you could choose from. I am going to lube this up. Wet seal is always better than a dry seal. Threw a little bit of oil on there, and so we should be good. Maybe better to take the O-ring off, slide it on there, and then put it in there. That way you don't risk pinching it. Oof. So you actually don't reuse these Allen heads. Comes with another set that are shorter. You want to make sure you use those. Make sure you tighten this down evenly so we can press that O-ring in. Quite honestly, it's not fitting the best. Let me swap that O-ring and see if there's a difference. doesn't really want to go down there either. It's really odd. Well, we'll leave that like it is for now. You can see there's a slight gap. I don't know if you can see that. So I'll reach out to IAG and see what's going on there. I'm afraid that if I just keep tightening this, it's going to break the ear right off. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. We'll get this installed. If I need to take it off, I will. But we'll go from there. Alright, so back over to the car side. Got the 4 bolts that go through the mount into the back of this, so we'll get those installed. Well, that's one thing I did not account for. I don't think 4 of these bolts are going to fit next to each other. No, so you can see the overlaps where the flanges actually hit each other. So you can either use 2 of the bolts, 2 of the 4, which I think would be fine, or you could try Allen heads, which I'm going to see if I have some. If I do, I'll use those. If not, I'll just use the 2. Alright, so I did find some Allen heads for these little guys, but did put some washers on there, so that way it doesn't mar up the finish on that. So we'll get this installed. Good. Good general rule of thumb is when tightening up with Allen heads, once the wrench starts bending a bit, it's pretty good tight. And that's solid. So, not gonna plumb this yet. Honestly, I might even turn it back a little bit. Who knows? We'll get started on these lines. What I am going to do first is the passenger side. So, just taking this off to show you. We're using the backwardmost port. We've got a 90-degree adapter, and then we've got a 90-degree hose end. We are using the regular, it's still E85 rated oil and fuel, but we're not using the PTFE ones on this one. The reason for that, PTFE, they don't bend as freely as the regular rubber lines, and these are much easier to work with. So since it's only for catch can, no fuel, we should be okay with that. So put the 90 fitting on there. We'll take off the hose end. We'll take you over to the bench. I've already showed you how to install the PTFE style. I'll show you how to install these ones. Basically just take the collar off, oil this up, put this over the hose, and then screw this down. So we'll go over to the bench, we'll show you how that works. Alright, so I've ordered about 10 feet of the 8AN braided hose. You can see it's rubber versus PTF lined, so this should work nicely. Basically what you do, first screw the collar on, should be pretty easy. You screw it all the way down until it gets flush with the, well, not flush, but basically backs up towards the end of the hose. And that's it. Once that's in there, back this open, move it to the edge. Basically you just clamp this in here. Recommend not going right to the edge. So that way you've got a little bit of wrench room. And then you basically oil this up and thread her down. So roll this up. And you thread it down. Oop. Now with these Fragola hose ends, I believe this is actually 8AN wrench size. So let me go grab my wrench and we should be able to get that knocked out. And it is. I know some of the other hose ends, specifically I know Vibrant is one, they use different sizes. We are going to be installing that today also, so I'll show you what that looks like. But you basically just tighten this down until it stops. You do want to make sure that you oil the barb end so that way it goes down the hose freely, because if not, it could push the hose out and you don't want that. There we go. First hose end is done. So we'll get this installed and then we'll mark it for cutting, and then we'll cut it and put the other end on. All right, so just like last time, lay this in here where you want it. Basically mine's gonna go like that. So I want it tucked in. And then I'm gonna get a hose clamp for this side. I did need to actually order some slightly larger hose clamps, so we use the 5/8 for now. I did order the 3/4, which would fit better. But for test fitment purposes, we'll throw this 3/4 in, we just won't tighten it all the way. actually that could work fine. So I've got this kind of bent so that way it doesn't make contact with anything. Let me go ahead and just tighten this part down. Good. So again, I like the electrical tape because it keeps everything tight when it stretches. So that will make sure that that is the right height. And it is. If it's a little short, a little long, won't make a difference. Just cut right down the middle. Probably better on the side of long versus short. So we'll keep that in mind when we make the cut. Loosen this up. Now for this one, we will be using the bench saw again. I know last time we had some issues with PTFE, but with rubber hose, we should be okay. Another addition that I picked up tool-wise is a foot pedal for the saw. So we'll get this opened up and I'll show you how that works if you don't already know. I got the corded version on purpose, so that way, basically plug in this foot pedal into the power wire. Corded version, you never have to worry about the dying batteries. I don't plan on bringing this anywhere, so we should be good there. And then basically you just put a zip tie or the Velcro that I have on there. Anytime you need to use it, just step on the pedal. Makes it very easy versus having to go down there, unplug it, replug it back in every time, or apply the Velcro strap. Some people wire in a switch on here, but for me, I like the foot strap or foot pedal. Got our eye protection. Give it a little whirl. Looks nice. All right, so we'll get this up here on the chopping block. Cut it like butter. That worked out a lot better because it is rubber. So we'll go ahead and get these lines flushed really quick with water, and then we'll install it. I will be doing a final clean and flush after, but for now this will work. Basically just thread this in. Till it bottoms out, which it is. Good. Move it up. Use WD-40 this time. And we're good. That line is done. So we'll wipe this up. Look at that. Got our nice terminated line. So we'll get this reinstalled. Remember the whole lube in the threads? We'll do that again. See how easy that makes that? Always lube the threads. The bolt back in there. Where did I put that? Up there. Honestly, we'll install this first. Well, lube those threads too. There we go. That looks good. Get this tightened down. Get a slat down there. Yeah, that looks great. So line one done. We'll move on to, let's see, let's do this one. So this one's a little special. I have to angle this a little bit because of the back of the intake manifold. It's got some hoses, specifically the brake booster one. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I may do the test fitment with the intake on, but for now I'll just thread this in here. And then we'll put the top fitting on and then test fit that. So I'm gonna do this off camera. I'll be right back. All right, got that hose end on. Let's go ahead and get the hose installed, intake on, and then check for fitment. think it's gonna be something like that, but we'll see. So something like this, and we'll do right in the middle. All right, I'm gonna go get this cut and terminated, and then I'll be right back. I'll take this off for now. I'll be right back. All right, put this on. Leave that a little loose, so that way this can flex any way that it wants. There we go. That's natural resting. Should be good. Now the good thing with this, since these are swivel, is you can kind of let this orient itself how it's packaged, where it's kind of like looped around, so that way there's less strain on it. Get the intake on just to test fit this again. I think it'll be fine, but better safe than sorry. Yeah, that's perfect. Fits great. So we've got one more. Got one more line from the middle over to the driver's side. And then we'll focus on the coolant hoses, which is the back two actually. And then the drain. So for this one, we've got the 290s. Got 290s. Actually, no, this side and this. So these are 120s for the middle port and the driver's side. So this kind of kicks back a little bit. And then this one, because I've got the fuel lines down here, I've got it pointed down this way a little bit. So it'll come out, swoop up, and it should fit nicely. So we'll get these, at least this end in. We'll probably thread it on here, this side. And then we'll get this one adjusted for length. So I'll get that off camera, be right back. All right, so for this side, we just have the 120. So we'll take that off down here. Run this through. Like a glove, man, like a glove. I love it. I love it when it works out so nicely. All right, so I was a little worried about how that was going to fit back there because it was getting a little busy, but it fits perfect. And then we'll go up here. Give it a little bit of slack. Yeah, it's gonna work nice. And the good thing with these two, these types of lines, you don't have any disposable olives
that you need to use for the compression fitting. So if I need to take this back off and trim it, it's easy peasy. So I got away from these because, quite honestly, the rubber hoses permeate fuel smells. This is borderline race car, so probably could have gotten away with these. PTFE lines, they're harder to work with. I like that they're smaller diameter for the same size, 6AN, 6AN. Quite honestly, the 8AN for PTFE line is the same size as a 6AN outside dimension or diameter. So can be easier to work with when it's smaller, but it's a lot more rigid. It's not as flexible as this. So quite honestly, I'm torn between going back to this. I like that the PTFE line has that extra hard coating outside, whereas this is just a nylon. So if this gets caught up on anything, you can kind of cut through the nylon, and then you've got fibers kind of, it looks a little tacky for me only when this has abrasion issues. But if you plumb everything correctly, you're not, stampling all over it, it should be fine. So we'll get this taken off, we'll get this cut, terminated, installed, and we'll be right back. All right, so we got that hose end on. Let's go ahead and get this installed. Again, you want the hose to rest in its natural position, so use the swivel ends to adjust accordingly. Leave it loose so it can swivel a little bit. There we go. Probably could have made that a little bit shorter, but quite honestly, I just don't want too much tension on it. I think it fits nicely right how it is. And then we can zip tie that if we want to. But yeah, that looks great. Get this on. Look at that. That's clean. Everything's black, blends in. I like it. All right, let's move on to the coolant hoses. Get those plumbed up. So this bracket that I've got made, basically it bolts onto one of the bolts on the rear. What do you call those? The TGV ports? Not TGV. What is that? I guess it might be EGR stuff. Yeah, EGR holes. Each head has EGR port with 2 bolts. This just kind of bolts onto one of the 10 millimeters, so it's an M6 bolt. And this goes into the factory ear on the coolant return. So that way the coolant return has the banjo bolt that holds it still, but then you've got still this second leg. That way it can't rotate and eventually loosen up on itself. If you can, ideally you want to triangulate everything. That way it's much more rigid. It's not going to come loose, just more sturdy that way. So I'll get this installed. I'll try to show you what it looks like after it's installed as best I can. It's kind of in a tight area. But let me get this installed and I'll be right back. Well, that's not going to work out. This is the bracket they sent me. This is the bracket that I sent them to make. It's flipped. It's supposed to be that way. So I can't make that line, but I can do this other coolant line and we'll go from there. Alright, so I'm going to apply just a little bit of coolant, or I'm sorry, a little bit of oil to the outside coolant port, so that way I can slide this in without it having to worry about ripping anything. Just a little bit goes a long way. Alright. Clips right on. Look at that. Probably run it underneath that line. Yep. I didn't even have to cut for length, it was just perfect fitting. Yeah, that works great. Get my little clip on there. All right, so I like using the tension clamps. That way when it gets hot or cold, it'll automatically adjust to whatever tension it needs. So start with a smaller one, see if I can get that on there. If I can't, step it up a size. Nope. Go up one size. Okay. There we go. So that coolant port's done. Honestly, I could lift this up just a little bit to give it a little bit of room. Which I will do. Oh, it's already loose anyways. So, just a little bit. There we go. Nice. Okay. And I can't do that one or this side because of that, so I think that's it for now, because I can't really do the drain until I get that bracket. So I gotta reach out, get a new bracket made. But this thing's pretty much done. Reach out to IEG, find out why this isn't fitting properly. Actually, yeah, it's still cracked up a little bit. So once I get these lines made, I'll take everything off, all the lines. We'll flush them out. We will pressure test them, make sure nothing leaks. But for now, this is just mock-up, and I think it looks great. So that's what we got. All right, guys, well, that's what I've got for this week. Appreciate the support. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe if you find value in the channel. Really helps me grow. This week we got the majority of the catch can plumbed up except for the issue that I ran into with the bracket. I'll get that sorted, get a new bracket on the way, finish up the install, and then we'll go ahead and clean out the hoses. We will pressure test them, make sure we've got no leaks, and install for final assembly. Once that's done, we basically get the intake manifold back on. We start plumbing up for the intercooler piping, get that where we want it to be. I'm either gonna do that or start working on the wiring harness. Still need to terminate some of those ends. I've got a brand new harness, so we don't have to worry about any kind of wires breaking because of heat or age. So we'll get that in the car. We'll get the ends re-terminated for things like the injector dynamics injectors. Those use a different pigtail. And then I'm repurposing a lot of the internal wiring for some of the sensors I want. So not sure if I want to do the wiring first or the piping first. I would like to do the piping first, but quite honestly, I think it may be smart to do the wiring first. That way I can get that placed out where it needs to be, and then I can run the piping where I need to make sure I have no fitment issues. But that's it. We'll catch you guys next time.